the 25th anniversary has been looming large for quite a long time, and myself and the rest of the team had a conversation. So what do we want to do to commemorate that completely unique achievement? And it's just really blossomed. You know, obviously there's the book, which has been a tremendous success. We had the launch of the book, and I know seeing you here this evening, a lot of you were there. That was a really special evening for me, who's relatively new to Warwickshire. I know it's very special for you. And there's more things that we've got planned as well. So, and I think that's, you know, just a reminder to everybody about, you know, what Warwickshire was back then, but also what Warwickshire is now and in the future.
It was important to you, wasn't it, to have those lunches? The other day we had Neil Smith and Dominic Oster. The week before, Andy Knowles, Tim Munton, Paul Smith, and before that we had other players. You wanted as many as the class of '94 to be honoured by lunchtime chats too, didn't you?
Yeah, we did, and I think the feedback that we had has been really positive, and I think that's spurred us on to do more things as well. So we'll. I mean, we've done a lot. We've done more this year, I think, than we've done in the past, and the feedback's been very positive. So I think as we look ahead to next year, we'll want to continue that.
So big summer, big year for Warwickshire, and next year we've got the 100. Now we're not going to go deep into the entrails of the 100 because otherwise we'll be here till midnight. But just give me your thoughts on Warwickshire having to play on outgrounds as a consequence because of the 100.
Yeah, so I mean, as far as the 100 itself is concerned, there's still a lot of work going on. In fact, Norman and myself had a session up here last year towards the end of the year. Some of you might remember at one of the tea intervals where we talked about the 100. So that is coming. It will happen next year. I think it is going to be exciting, but it's important. It's not at the expense of Warwickshire and the Birmingham Bears, but it complements it. But what it does mean is that when the 100's running, we will have the 50 over competition as well. The 50 over competition obviously this year was very early because of the World Cup, but we will be looking to schedule that. And at the moment, what we're hoping is that some of those games could still be played here at Edgbaston, but it's more likely that they will also be played at Portland Road. So I think some of you have been to Portland Road recently to see the setup there. We've got some really good cricket facilities. The pitches there are great. We get fantastic feedback on those, and so I think there's probably going to be some of the games at Portland Road and some of them here, depending how the schedule goes. So that will be a bit different, and we've got a lot of investment going in over the winter to Portland Road, mainly for your facilities, to make sure the spectator facilities are up to scratch, and that will actually give us a genuine outground that we haven't had for a while, and we haven't had this year. Hence why we're going to New Road.
If any of you want to raise an issue about any of the things that we've heard so far from Neil, you're mighty welcome. As I say, Andy's around. Just put your hand up and shout out if you wish. No one yet, Andy? Okay, well, let's move on to... Oh, yes, sir.
Excuse me. Yes, sir. My ignorance, but where is Portland Road?
Sorry, Portland Road, it's the old Michelin Butler sports ground on Portland Road over on Cape Hill. So up the other side of the Hagley Road. So in Birmingham, it's probably about a 10-15 minute ride.
Oh, M5 on the Hagley Road.
Yeah. Down the A456, yeah. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
While you're talking about the match going to New Road, which I fully understand the reasons why with the World Cup, would it not have been a worthwhile idea to try and switch the Essex fixture and play the home match at the end of the season and go there?
Yeah, we did. We tried a whole load of different things to see if we could work out the schedule. And that was the first one that we tried to say, well, can we make sure we switch it accordingly? There was I can't remember what it was, but when we fed that into the people that do the schedule, they couldn't actually do that. We also looked at the scheduling to see again if we could slip it slightly so that we could start after the World Cup. So we did try. I was just chatting to another gentleman earlier who asked the same question. We did try everything that we could to see if we could get that game in here at a different time. We even tried to get out of being the reserve venue for the final because it's highly unlikely, fingers crossed, that we'll need to be used. But we would have preferred to have it here. I should just say on that, we're working very closely with the team at New Road about the details for how that will work for the members, and then through Andy and through the website and through social media, we'll send that information out to explain how it will work for the members, particularly things like parking and access and things like that. So we'll send that out in due course.
Neil's obviously staying here, and he'll butt in at various occasions if something else arises. But we'll move on to Paul Farbrace now. Paul, here we are, England in the World Cup, and you are an integral part of England's rise and rise in the last few years. That is for sure. And you came to Warwickshire. Is there a part of you, a human part of you, thinking, "Ooh, World Cup, England"? Or are you here at Warwickshire as well?
Yeah, there is. Of course, there is. And I enjoyed watching a little bit of the first game at the Oval, and I desperately want to see England do well, as I'm sure everybody in this room does. So part of me, yes, thinks it'd be nice to be involved, but I have to say that the job's kept me quite busy, so I haven't really had too much time to think about England. But I've watched a little bit, but I not watched every ball. But I mean, as I say, my view is I just want the team to do well, whether I'm involved or not.
You can divorce yourself now professionally from it, can you?
Absolutely, yeah. And I was at Cardiff watching Sri Lanka and New Zealand on Saturday. Thoroughly enjoyed that. So I'm doing a few games for BBC, and it's quite a nice way to be involved in the World Cup. So it's not completely away from it.
Now, Paul, I remember you and I talking a few weeks ago about the bad start of the season, at least statistically. But you maintained that Somerset game, which you lost, was still a turning point, yeah?
Definitely. I think we saw. I think we saw in that game at Taunton a very spirited, a very committed, and a very passionate performance from the team. It was a tricky pitch, and the thing that I've admired the most about the group is there's been no whinging, there's been no complaining, there's been no let's feel sorry for ourselves. And let's be fair, the pitch at Taunton was a tough pitch. It was a tricky pitch, and it wasn't something that I think you want to play on every single week. It made for quite an exciting game, but it was a challenge. But the great thing was that there was no, as I say, there was no complaining, and the lads got on and made the very best of it. And also we saw the emergence of Liam Norwell, who has continued to have an effect on every game that he's played.
He can bat too, can't he?
Well, I think his innings here against Surrey was instrumental in turning the game. Morné Morgan taking the new ball and hitting him for 4 fours in the first over the new ball. It wasn't just the hitting the 4 fours, it was a statement that he was sending back to Surrey and to Morné Morkel that, you might have a brand new ball, but you're not going to take me on. I'm going to take you on, and I'm going to play on the front foot. And it was a fantastic performance on him.
He's got a championship 100 anyway for Gloucestershire, so he's no fool.
No, he definitely no fool. And as I say, his high level of skill with bat and ball is outstanding, but his personality and what he brings to the team is outstanding. Very, very quiet fellow off the field, but once he crosses the line, there's something in him, which is great to see.
So that was good recruitment before your time. Now, obviously, inevitably, recruitment is one of your responsibilities. We've heard lots of things in and around the media about certain players that you're looking at. Liam Dawson, for example, David Willey. I don't suppose you're going to give the members an exclusive at all about that, are you?
I'll tell you everything. What would you like to know? You can just keep it to yourself. Don't tell anybody else.
Are you going to comment at all that you're?
Look, I think what the key thing is that we're not looking to just bring loads of players in. One of the things that I've said right from the start is I'd like to see us really develop some of our homegrown players, and I think Paul Greetham and the academy have done a fantastic job. They've really, over the last 5 years, have developed a good group of players coming through. And we're seeing Rob Yates playing in this side at the moment. I think it's brilliant to see someone like him making the strides he's made. Dan Mosley has been signed on a summer contract, and both of them will commit to longer contracts at the end of this season going forward, which I think is a fantastic move, and it sends out a strong message to other young players in our system that we are really passionate about developing our own players. Equally, if we have a couple of places that we need to fill with good experienced cricketers who will bring just a little bit of extra edge to our team and to our squad, then I think that's important. But we're not looking to... Is somebody going to come in? That's our new signing. I've waited behind the door. Let's see who it is.
Here he is.
Talking of young cricketers,
A popular entrant. Hello, Jeetan.
How are you? Okay.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Let's have a quick word from Jeetan then about his performance in the last couple of weeks. You've had a good couple of weeks, haven't you, Jeetan?
We have, yeah.
There he goes again, distracting attention from himself.
No, we have. It's been good to be able to, I suppose, come off some tough outcomes, but still be able to go out and express ourselves and want to learn and want to be who we want to be in the future. And that's teams that push oppositions into positions to take wickets. Sorry, I've just come out of the shower, I'm steaming. And then the opportunity came for me to take some wickets at the end there. But if I think about the whole group, I think we're all doing fantastic jobs to try and push for these positions, and I think today's game shows it.
Right, take your sweater from there, Jeeves. We'll come back to Paul Farbrace. There's some water around there for you. So we haven't got anything stronger for the moment. Yeah, and Paul, the academy, the pathway as people call it, we had people, Ian Bell, Jim Troughton as well, Ian Bell, Henry Brooks, Chris Wokes and co. The feeling has been in recent years that it's actually stagnated a little bit, but it sounds like you're very optimistic that it's going to come bubbling to the surface again.
Yeah, as I say, I think the last 5 years since Paul Greethan's been there, there's been a real push to improve things and do things really well. And sometimes it goes in cycles. You don't always, with young cricketers, you don't always get the best ones coming through all together. And every club goes through a cycle of finding, developing and producing young players. And as I say, I think at the moment we've got a real talented group. And the second team games I've watched, there's been up to 5 young players playing in the team. Ethan Brooks is another one who has played and has done very well. So there are some very talented kids coming through the system, and the same with players that you're looking to recruit from outside. I think the most important thing is not just their quality as a cricketer and their skill level, but the character and the personality. We want people that come here. You know, Liam Norwell, as I say, is a great example of someone, great signing, real good character, and somebody who, when he plays, he gives absolutely 100% every time, and he has a driving force to be as good as he can be, and a driving force to make the team better. And when you have those sorts of characters in the team, you have a real chance of success.
Yeah, there's no shame in being inexperienced as far as you're concerned. The talent is there, the drive is there. The only thing is you've got to work on is the inexperience, yeah?
Absolutely, and the only way you get experience is to play. You know, and that's something that, you know, I admire about these two in terms of their choice of selections. They stick by people. You know, it would be very easy over the last few weeks to have chopped and changed and to have left someone out, put someone in. That they've actually stuck by their players, and they're saying, look, even if you have a tough time, we're standing by you. We know that you're talented, we know that you're skillful, we know that you're made of the right stuff, and the only way you're going to gain experience is to play and to play games. And I think that is something that doesn't happen enough in modern sport. I think it's too easy to chop and change, and you know, everybody in this room would have opinions about selection. That's the great thing about sport. That's what brings us back time and time again. We all have opinions. We love the game, we're passionate about the game, and if we went around the room, we could have changed the team 3 or 4 times. We know that, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. That's why we love sport so much. But as I say, the great thing they've done is they've stood by players, and when you stand by players, you start to get your results, as we've seen in this game as well.
We'll come back to you later. I want to talk about Warwickshire women and your thoughts about that, because that's part of your area as well. Jim, you tell us about that Hampshire game at the end of that match when you had a big meeting, you got all the staff involved, not just the players, etc. Can you give us a flavour of what that meeting was like and what kind of things were tossed around?
Well, yeah, obviously, thanks for having me up here today. Good to see some familiar faces and some loyal supporters. Yeah, it was one of those open chats. We had everyone at the club really involved with the cricket in the same room. Obviously, Hampshire was a disappointing game. You know, we were well and truly second in that game, and what it was a lot of honesty. Guys facing up to each other, and if we needed to pull up each other on certain things, we did that. If we needed to big each other up in certain areas, we did that. I think what came out of it, and what is testament to this group of lads, is that they haven't shied away from this challenge, and it has been challenging. A challenging first part of the season, be it through outcomes like Jeet said, or a couple of injuries that have sort of had a group of players having to fend for themselves and lacking a couple of senior players through injury. Now, those aren't excuses, but that is the reality. And the one thing that this young group of lads have done is stick together. And that's really important, because in times like this, it is very easy to separate, to chop and change, to chase your tail a little bit, and it may be seen as sticking with the same formula and not facing up to it. But this group of players are a very talented group of players, but they have inexperience. And like Paul said, the only way they're going to get that experience is keep turning up and keep coming out and keep challenging them again and keep challenging the opposition. And they've come up against some very experienced teams. And like you said, the Somerset game, we went toe to toe, we came up short. And against a Surrey team that have experienced injuries, but still exhibit current Test players, ex-Test players, we dominated them over 4 days of cricket. And in this game, for example, you look at that lineup for Nottinghamshire. There's England Lions, there's Ashes players, there's experienced county cricketers against a young group of lads, a couple of oldies, obviously, who are performers and who perform week in, week out.
Very dark look there from the captain.
But what we're seeing now is these guys are starting to believe that they are good players, and they're also starting to believe as a unit they can be a very, very good team. It's still early days. We know that it's still early days. The biggest challenge for this group of lads is to back up good performances again and again and again. The RL50 proved that you take someone, for example, like Liam Banks, who had in my view, a very good RL50 competition. He put in some good performances, but he struggled to back up back-to-back games. Now, as a young player, I've been that young player coming into a team where I had Osler, Penny, Powell, War, Knight. I had a lot of senior players around me, and I was allowed to just perform. And sometimes I had a good day, sometimes I didn't have a good day, but it was never exposed as much as having 2 or 3 guys in exactly the same boat as myself. So these guys have had to fend for themselves a little bit and learn very, very quickly. But they've kept turning up. They've kept working incredibly hard. And I'd say this about the management that I work with as well. The amount of hours that these guys have put in through this testing time, I think I will familiarise myself with my wife and kids in October. But these guys, there is literally no stone unturned. They are thinking constantly how we can get better. And even when we have good days like this, we're thinking how we can improve on that. So I will put it to you that these guys will work for this club as hard as they possibly can to, in the future, when they become an experienced group of players and they've played against Broad. Rob Yates is a perfect example. 6 weeks ago, he's at university getting ready to do his first year exams, and in the last couple of weeks, he's faced Broad, Pattinson, and Morkel. And that spell of bowling on the first day here, which we know, actually, they may have thought it was a flat wicket, but I think there's plenty in it when it's a swinging ball. And you've got someone like Stuart Broad, who to left-handers around the wicket is one of the best in the world. We know that. And that passage of play there for a young kid to face the amount of balls that he did and to get through that difficult period of play, he will benefit immeasurably from that experience. And those will be the little wins that we get. We might not get the outcomes all the time, but those little wins will build a really strong team for the future.
So was that the significance of the Norwell-Brooks partnership then against Surrey? They're 186 for 8 against a team with 8 internationals, reigning champions, and then it sparked you off to a tremendous win. Would you say that Norwell-Brooks little period was a pivotal part of that game?
Yes, I think sometimes when things aren't going well, you're not getting the results you want, there is a catalyst, there is a moment you can look back on, and that was a moment where we started throwing punches back, and then you could feel it in the dressing room, the sense of belief growing, from a lad who, that's his first game at Edgbaston, Liam Norwell, and he's had a long career at Gloucester. To go out and to do what he did, it definitely ignited a lot of belief in that group of lads, because sometimes they need evidence. You can have all the talent in the world, but until you prove it to yourself, you can do it out in the middle. And he did that. He grew that confidence. Obviously, Jeet's played an enormous part in that game, and used the conditions and used his skill. But there were little moments, little cameo moments from those young guys. And in this one, this is a perfect example in this game. Batting long periods of time against good opposition, bowling good areas. We spent most of this game having to justify the pace in which we batted, but we've proved that it's not as simple as it looked, and Nottinghamshire showed that.
So, Jeets, what about Adam Hose then? What a great time to get his maiden first-class 100 today.
Yeah, awesome for all of us, really. I think you would have sensed when he got over the line our emotion, because we know how hard he's worked. We know how he's kept coming back, like Jim said. I've said countless amount of times in the change room, it's men that keep coming back to do their job. The kids run away. And those guys have kept coming back. And this game is just another game in the calendar. There's so many more games in the season to come, but so far we've had so many learning experiences, and so has Adam Hose. He's been tested with his technique. We've tested him with his technique. We've tested him with how he wants to play his cricket. And what he did today was just glorious for all of us for the fact that we're so excited for him, and I think that's the best part of this group at the moment is everyone is so happy for each other to go out and just contribute, and small contributions. Liam Banks yesterday, that's a hell of a contribution against a serious spell that he faced. Yes, it was only 20 odd, but he got the run rate going again. He got Adam scoring again, and it meant that we could push on, and like we did this morning.
How good is Norwell to captain? Have you been even more pleasantly surprised by him? Obviously, you'd know about him when Warwickshire signed him. What's he like to captain?
Easy, really easy. You just throw on the ball and say what you want. The one thing that's, you bless him a little bit here. He's just so apologetic. He's so nice. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, mate, I missed that. I'm sorry, mate, I missed this. Like, okay, mate, don't worry about it. We all miss. But he's such a trier. He has a general plan in his mind, and he's got this big frame, and he wants to whack the wicket as hard as he can, and he can get in guys' faces. So it's great crossing the line. It's just right now when he's come back from I suppose 16 months of not playing cricket, it's just trying to manage him a little bit because he gets a bit excited. We call him the Big Red, and it's not just because of his ginger hair. He just gets missed and gets excited. So like out there, it's just controlling him. But ultimately, it's nice to be able to throw the ball to him, and he does funny things with it, like he did tonight. We almost snaffled a twofer there, which would have been a lovely little way to finish the day. But proud of the guys for what they did today.
You and Tim Ambrose are the 30-somethings. The rest of them, Ollie Hannon Dolby's a couple of weeks off his 30th birthday. The rest are the 20s. How do you find that mix to captain, that comparative inexperience?
Difficult. Sometimes I feel like I'm babysitting at work as well as at home, but no, it's quite fun. It's quite grounding. Hence my new haircut. I'm trying to catch up with the kids. But look, they are very grounding. They talk about things that I'd rather read the paper, but they're quite happy to talk about Love Island or whatever's happening. So it's about those conversations, trying to connect back with them. To be honest with you. Tim and I are old grumpy men, and if things aren't going our way, we get grumpy. If things are going our way, we get grumpy. If it's cold, we get grumpy. If it's hot, we get grumpy. It's just we're just grumpy old men. We've spent a lot of time in the dirt, but I couldn't think of a better person to do it with. He's a fantastic keeper, a fantastic friend, but how he reads the game and how he reads personalities is certainly very helpful towards me.
Because you came comparatively late to the captaincy, didn't you, of any side? Am I right that you didn't do too much captaincy before you came to start with Warwickshire last season?
No, I did a little bit for Wales. I hated it. It was like I really disliked it. I sort of didn't do my job. I thought, I had to do everything, and therefore I didn't really pay attention to my job. But look, if I'm being honest, I've loved every moment of doing it here. It's a great place to captain, to come up here and to talk to you guys as well about how we're going and get the ins and outs of where we really are going is quite important, because a lot of people sit on the other side of the rope and just see us play, but they don't actually know what's happening in behind the changing room, those changing room doors. And there's a lot of challenges, yes, but it's exciting. I love coming to work. So to captain the boys, to lead the guys, to be involved in conversations that are going to take this club forward is, I'm in a pretty lucky position to be.
Quite clearly, the guys are very happy to answer any questions you want to throw. Gentlemen, we've got a few hands here first of all. Andy, the gentleman first of all alongside you, then we'll come to you two, promise you.
Hi there, gents, and I think the three cricketers, excuses Neil, Pat's wincing already because he knows me, apologies. I think you may have answered this question already, and Jeetan, I think when Pat said you, and you said not I, we, right at the outset, spoke volumes, and your first word was we. A couple of questions please, if I may, and I know two questions are horrible, Pat, forgive me.
Clock's ticking.
Supplementary, right. The three young players, three 19-year-olds in the team, fantastic to see. The Surrey game, Henry Brooks, I could understand entirely tactically why at the end, 11 overs to go, 6 from your end, you brought yourself off, you've had 3 maidens at the number 11, and you chucked a 19-year-old kid the ball, said come round the wicket, come in at the left-hander, be at him, be nasty, you got him first innings. But I thought the act of faith you showed in a 19-year-old lad who'd done the hard yards at the other end, bowling dry for you early in the day, was fantastic. And the way 10 other players jumped on Henry's back when he got that final wicket, spoke volumes for what the other guys were alluding to about it's a team and it's a unit. And I could not have been happy for him to get the final wicket with excuses to your good self. And I know you'd say that as skipper because you've done my job, mate. What I was wondering was, in terms of conditioning and physicality, for a 19-year-old quick bowler, what kind of work do you do in terms of managing his workload to ensure that come 25, 26, when hopefully he's in his pomp, he will be in his pomp? And I know you've got injuries, so it is what it is. And that's not easy as a skipper to manage. And I get that. And likewise, you mentioned Liam Banks making useful 20, and number 3, Rob Yates going in and facing a tricky spell, concentrating on the next ball, get through it, experiences it all. They must be going through tough times, self-doubt. They're young, it's understandable. How do you work with them psychologically, mentally, so when they next go in, they've had a defeat the first couple of games, they are still believing in themselves, their foot movement's still good. It's that kind of work we don't see behind the scenes.
Right, which of these 18 questions you want to answer?
I didn't warn you, Pat.
I wish I'd taken notice of you.
To be fair, I think you answered your own question, so that was excellent. I mean, these two are all about managing people. That's their job. You know, it's managing people, and it's not always the tactical side. It's reading people, reading where young people are at, having patience with young people, and allowing young people to make mistakes. I think that's one of the biggest things. And coaching and captaincy isn't necessarily all about the technical side. It's actually understanding the person, making sure you've got the person worked out, and that's a team effort as well. So, you're right, they are young people, they're going to make mistakes, and that's where all of us in this room need to be patient at times. And I think that's the one thing that we have seen. We have seen a lot of patience, and I think over the last 2 games here in particular, we've all started to see some good performances, but we're not getting carried away by that. We're not saying we've cracked it and everything's going to be great for the rest of the year. We know we're in for tough days going forward, but the important thing is that we are allowing young people to make mistakes, and we're providing, and these 2 guys are providing the right environment for them to learn in.
Thank you. Unless you've got anything more to add, Jeets and Jim, to that.
I suppose a little bit of Henry Brooks, talking about managing the
managing the
workload.
workload,
Yeah, Henry burst on the scene last year.
Yeah.
Everything he did touched to turn to gold. He played red ball cricket, got 80-odd forfeit, and then he played 50-over games, and he tore it up. And then first T20 game on TV, he roughed up Nash in that first over, wicket made, and everything Henry did literally turned to gold. And he was hot property. A lot of people talking about him, what he's experiencing after having an injury, us having to manage him back into cricket, looking after his body, but also giving him enough overs so he's actually bowling well. That's the juggling act you've got to play. And also, he's got to deal with that expectation that's on his shoulders. He's a young kid, 19-year-old kid, who has gone through in this period here some tough moments, whether it be, not getting it right, going around the park a little bit. What you've got with Henry, he's a performer, he's a competitor. And managing him off the field will just be about getting him focusing on the things that he can control. And have to deal with those times where it's not going well for him, because it went so well. People talk about second season syndrome, often for batters, but with Henry, he's having to learn very, very quickly. And yes, we've had some injuries, so maybe we've had to go to him a bit more than we thought we would in the big picture. We don't have crystal balls, we don't have X-ray goggles to see if he's going to be okay. But what we're seeing is every game, he's working out how to look after his body after a day's play, how to prepare his body for a day's play, how to do his drill work, how to make sure he's getting enough batting and bowling under his belt. And he's a quick learner in that respect, and he will be a fantastic player. But he's going to have good days and bad days.
It's a roller coaster. He's 19.
Yeah, and I think he's not on his own in that fact.
Jim, thank you. Gentleman here, please, and then you, sir. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
If the theme is the growth of experience, would a team that doesn't get relegated count as a successful season? Or indeed, if you are the team that does get relegated, would that also count as a successful season?
Jeets, do you want to take this one first, please? Then you, Jim.
Yeah, I think if we're looking at outcomes, staying up is pretty important. For us to go through this whole season against Division 1 teams with test bowling attacks, test batting lineups, to run all the conditions throughout the different times of the year, staying up would be massive if it was outcomes. If it's learnings and the guys then scoring runs and taking fifers and individual experiences, then let's go down. I mean, that doesn't bother me. I'd rather us learn as a group how to win games, how to be a group, how to take this club forward and stay up, than I start to get individual and start thinking about how many runs I've got, how many hundreds I've got, how many fifers did I get that season, because this club's not going to go forward if we've just got individuals looking like that. It's got to be about these 19-year-olds who I love dearly, putting in contributions for us to go forward. If Adam Hose didn't get 100 today, I would celebrate as if he did, because of where he's been and where he's come out and where he's left us in terms of the position of the game. And I think it's just a tick in the box for him that he has, and he's off that mark.
Jim, do you cast your mind back to 2010, which was a big learning curve for a lot of players, which culminated in the title 2 years later?
Yeah, I mean, I was part of that team that people might know the stats. I think we went 7 or 8 games without getting a batting point, and that was a tough year. We got rolled twice in a day at Trent Bridge, funnily enough, against Nottinghamshire, and we had a very similar meeting in that changing room after hearing some of the Notts boys walking up the steps saying how bad we were as a team. We had 5 games left. We needed to win 4 out of 5 to stay up. We did. We won a Lord's final at the end of that year, and we were odds-on favourites to go down the next year. And we were pipped to the post by a Lancs team, having won 10 championship games. So the thing about that season, as tough as it was as an individual, as a batter in that lineup, and as a team not getting the results we wanted, everyone stuck together. Everybody stuck together and didn't blame, didn't sort of go into their own little groups and moan about conditions and opposition and decisions and he's not doing his job. We all faced up to it and we grew as a team through that. And this will be very similar. I think we're capable, I think we're good enough to stay up in this division. You know, with one going down, you know, the odds are more helpful than previous years. And I said at the beginning of this season that consolidation in Division 1 is our objective. So if we achieve that objective, that's a big tick for me, because I think we'll have learnt a lot, we'll have made sure we're a first division team next year, and I think we'll be a very dangerous team in the future.
Will you reference, or have you referenced 2010, 2012 to the current
I did
crop?
in that meeting. I mentioned that Westy was captain in that year, and he laughed. He said, "Oh, thanks, mate. Cheers for." But I said, "This is, you know, sometimes these dark times where things aren't going well, you learn a lot about the bloke next to you, and that's where you find out where the characters lie in your dressing room. You can look them in the eye and you know who's here for the fight and who doesn't want to be here anymore. And every single one in that room, and Paul was in that room as well, saw that. It's easy to look back and go, well, that meeting was that was the reason why we performed so well in the next couple of games. There's a number of things, but I do think from times where things aren't going really well and you're getting a fair bit of stick, staying as consistent as you can and trusting what you've put in, the work you've put in, and that's management and players alike, you will reap the benefits. And you know, hopefully we're seeing a little turn of fortunes here. We're not getting ahead of ourselves, but it's a very, very good start.
Paul, what did you think about that meeting that was broadened out? It wasn't just the players, it was everybody involved, not necessarily people in the dressing room doing things out in the field. Did you approve that it was broadened out?
Well, I think it was key because everybody in that room had a role to play in the team's performance on the field. So it was important that everybody that had a chance to influence the team was in that room. And it was a chance for everyone to offer a view, everyone in the room to be very clear on the way forward. And it was a very simple message. It's about, you know, being brutally honest and making sure that every day, as these two have alluded to, that we do the right things. And that's on and off the field. And if you do that, if you're consistent as people, it's amazing how much success you have as sportsmen on the field. If you're inconsistent, don't be surprised if your performances are average.
Gentlemen here, yes, you've been patiently waiting. Yes, we'll come eventually, yeah. Thank you. Yep.
In hindsight, do you think the club should have gone for a compact player at the beginning of the season with the lack of batting points? The person I would have approached would have been Snowball, whose average is higher than Brian Lara's, because without Ian Bell for another month, who's played over 100 tests for England, and the retirement of Jonathan Trott, we're still not getting enough batting points.
Okay, it's an interesting name. Not a name I would say I thought of, I have to say, Chanderpool. But in terms of, I'd take you back to some of the answers we've shared earlier. Rob Yates and Liam Banks wouldn't have had the opportunity that they've had. We wouldn't be in a strong position in 2 or 3 years' time going forward. And I hope that we, and I wouldn't say rule it out completely, but I hope that we stick to trying to produce players to play for England whilst winning games of cricket for Warwickshire. So, you know, I don't think someone like him should be on our list personally. But as I said earlier, it's a great thing about the game. We all have opinions.
Jim, could you just give us an update on Ian Bell, and Ollie Stone, please?
Okay, so starting with Belly, obviously we know he's had an operation on his foot, and we did have a target date of sort of mid-June actually. There's a second team game against Leicester at Portland Road that we targeted for him. I think because of it's a very fragile area to have an operation on that sort of middle toe. He effectively had to break that toe and reset it and reattach the ligaments that are torn. Now, that's a very delicate operation that can be quite painful. And having talked to the Fears and talking to Belly himself, I think we might be having to push that a little bit further back now to make sure that he's in as good a place as possible. Because, like I said, it's getting guys fit and on the park, but they need to be also playing some cricket and feel confident. And it doesn't matter if you're Ian Bell or Rob Yates. That's the same for any cricketer. So I think we probably need to just temper that for maybe put another 2 weeks on that and take it more towards the end of June. But we'll keep monitoring that. I think he's seeing a specialist on Thursday to have it rescanned and see where he stands. Ollie Stone is making good progress. He actually bowled 5 overs in the nets. We got the speed gun out to see. He needed to be clocking around about sort of 70 to 75 miles an hour, of which he did. He bowled 5 overs to Sam Hain. He seems happy. So he's on target for, I think, again, looking to be more conservative in terms of Ollie's history and the type of bowler that he is, which is high octane, puts his body through quite a lot. So again, it'd be very similar to Belly, sort of mid to late June. But Ryan Sidebottom, who's been out for a while with a shoulder injury, he will play second team cricket next week up at Durham, which is good signs for us as well. So what could happen will be good headaches for us in terms of selection, is that we can have a group of guys who are getting more and more confident and getting results on the pitch, and then we're welcoming back world-class international players into the fold as well.
Thank you, Jim. Gentleman up here, we'll come to you, sir, I promise you. Something you want to ask about? Was it gentleman? Sorry, a lady. Apologies, my eyes aren't what they were. Whatever sex you are. Right, the hand is up, thank you. Sorry.
Gentlemen,
Graham Norton has this problem every week.
Paul, welcome to the club.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. And whatever happens, these people, members, are brilliant. And that makes the club. And that is brilliant for us. With you, Jimmy, and everybody else. And I'd like to thank everybody else.
Okay, so it wasn't a question, it was a statement, but it was very, very welcome. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Sorry. It was Fiona Bruce question time I was thinking of, sorry. She, like me, gets it wrong all the time. Is there somebody up there at the back? Yeah, we'll come to you as well, sir, don't worry. You're definitely a sir. Right, let's hear from the person at the back.
Thank you very much indeed. Welcome again, Paul. And what this gentleman says here, I've been so impressed by the fact the team spirit of the team and the Warwickshire County Cricket Club, the cricketers are a family, and I think that that speaks loudly and says volumes about the club. I'm very impressed about the idea of bringing youngsters through the academy, keeping the team together. I think that's fantastic as well, and clearly there are going to be headaches when the more experienced players become fit again and the challenging for places. My question is about a specific one, going back to today and Jeetan's fantastic performances in the last couple of games. Clearly there has been some sort of advantage or help for the spinners. I know Jeetan's very special spin bowler and gets the best out of it anyway, but Gareth Batty got 8 wickets. Not spinners didn't do so well today, but I wondered with what seemed to be friendly spinning conditions, why Alex Thompson isn't getting more of a go, because I was really impressed with him in some of the 50 over games, and I think there's another very special talent on the outside. and hoping that he's getting cricket too.
This one for Jeetan and then you, Jim.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point. I think let's take it back to the Surrey game. No one expected that wicket to behave like it did. It was a bit soft and a bit slow early, and they elected to bowl on it straight away. They thought there was going to be a lot in it. I thought it was just going to be a good batting wicket. And I think with our seaming attack, in terms of Norwell doing it both ways, Brooks with pace, and Dolby with control and swing, and then we've got Will Rhodes to bowl back of a length if we need it. I thought we had enough, and it just ended up being a Bunsen, to be honest with you. It was just a bit of a freakish thing. This wicket here, fairly similar again, but I still think it favours the seam bowlers. The one thing I'll say with Alex Thompson, I'm with you. I think he's gone strides ahead of where he was last year, and he's playing a lot of cricket for the twos. He still needs to bowl a lot of overs in my eyes. I'm not holding him back of his position. I want to bowl with him. I want him to grow, and I want him to take my job. And that's the one thing in this club. I think the older boys are starting to realise these guys are on our heels again. There was a period where we had no one chasing us, and now we have kids. I say kids. Chasing us and wanting our jobs, and it makes us hungry. But Tomo's not far away, and I think Tomo's going to feature in some of the games coming forward. I mean, we go to York Cricket Club, which is a pretty special place for me, but who knows what's going to be there. And I think he's ready. I think he's getting closer. He just needs to bowl some more overs in my eyes.
Jim?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why he played all those RL50 games. As an all-rounder, we saw an opportunity there from what he showed early pre-season, what he showed at the back end of last season, the work he did. He went over to Wellington, actually joined Jeets over in New Zealand as part of the ECB spin program. He is a very impressive young man. And not only did he bowl well in that competition, he also batted very well in that competition. It was another proof, or a bit more proof to show you when you've got a young player finding his way with a senior guy who does a similar art. It allowed him to just go and play, just go and bowl his overs. He wasn't the lead spinner. He got to then just sort of find his feet in that competition, and we saw the benefits from that. Absolutely, moving forward, if we see conditions or that suit having two spinners, of course we will entertain doing that, absolutely. Will opposition produce spinning wickets when we've got Jeetan Patel? I don't think so. And that's what we've also got to be prepared for. I think York should be nuts to say, right, let's make sure this thing's as dry as a bone and rags square when they've got to take Jeets on. And I think they're also aware of Alex Thompson. It's not like we don't have that option. That's why it's quite interesting to know that we're getting our seamers back fit as well. So if we do go, to some of these grounds, we go to the Oval. They played us here. I doubt it's going to be a dry wicket, as well as Gareth Batty bowled. I think they're going to say, well, we're going to make something for Mornay rather than for Gareth. But then if we're getting Stone back and we're getting Sidebottom back, we can challenge that. But no, absolutely, wanted to get guys in the team. Can't play substitutes in cricket. So when you make that decision, that's the decision made, but he's definitely someone who's improving every day.
Not a bad problem to have, thanks Jim. Right, Neil, get your sweater off, get yourself warmed up. We're going to bring you back from the lounging at Deep Square Leg. I want to talk to you about the Warwickshire ethos. We're not privileged enough to get into the dressing room area. You as well, Jim, after Neil. The various messages and motifs and mantras that are on the wall in various areas, emphasising the importance of being a bear.
I think the moment I arrived here at Warwickshire back in at the end of 2015, it just struck me what an incredible club it is and very special. And this whole the whole thing about the bear, it is unique to us. And I know every county will say they're special, but this is a very, very special club. And after I'd been here a while, everyone talked about the bear and being a bear. I sort of tried to get under the skin of what does it mean to be a bear. We haven't got time to go into it all now, but one of the things that I liked, right from word go, was talking to the players about it, talking to the old players about it, and then the question was how do we get that through to some of these young players, some who haven't come through the ranks and who haven't got the bears as part of their DNA. And all credit to Jim when Ashley started this with me last couple of years. And then when Ashley moved on, Jim took it up, and we've really tried to not just have a few marketing slogans around the place, but really, try to embed what it is. So the young players now, whether it's a new academy player or a new signing, they go on one of the tours with Rick and the other guys to go around the stadium and understand about the club and about the history of the club. They go in the museum to understand that. Jim, through the winter, put together what we've never had really before, which is a proper handbook for each of the players. But a lot of that is about where they fit in the journey, in the history of Warwickshire. And as you say, we've got some slogans around. There's some important mantras for us about Make the Bear Proud, which is about what the guys do now, about the whole history in terms of once a bear, always a bear, which I love, and that's why the '94 experience and spending so much time with those guys is great. And the other one is about legacy of Leave Your Mark. And these aren't just slogans, that's a £10 fine. And it is important. And I should say, and obviously those that buy our book will read about that, because we wanted the '94 book to be about '94, but not just about, wasn't that great 25 years ago, and it's not the same. It was about, how we're trying to bring that through now. And for me, that evening when we had the book launch, it was quite an emotional evening. Again, and I know the people here, to hear those stories and listen to those people. And they get it. They really get what it means to be a bear, as do these guys.
Well, it's
and
great
we need
having
to get that
it's
through.
great having Alan Donald there, because Alan Donald said to me, "Can I wear my Warwickshire player's tie?" He's there with Kent.
Yeah.
Alan was thrilled to be part of it that night. I think that meant such a lot, to so many people in that room, and to Alan Donald as well. Jim, what's stitched inside the players' collars?
Well, like the Chief said, based around 3 pillars. We talked about once a bear, always a bear, which is the link to the players that have been before us and the players of the future. We have it up on the board in the dressing room, and any ex-player who was capped comes in and signs that. So we had Eddie Hemmings come in. Yesterday at the end of play, we got him up on a chair and got him signing it. Jeff Humpage, Glaston Small, along with Ricky Clark, who's obviously come back to the club after moving back to Surrey. He signed it as well. So we have an incredible link with our past players. We have the Neil Aberley game in every summer, which connects the past with the present, and we make sure these young guys know who Neil Smith is, who Dominic Ostler are, who all these guys that have stepped on the field here and made the Bear proud. And make the Bear proud is probably the strongest one out of all of them. Inside the collar of the championship shirt, it's stitched on the inside collar. So every time they put that shirt on, they're looking to make the Bear proud. And that's not just on the pitch, that's off the pitch. That's your performances, that's your behaviours, that's the way you are when no one's looking. And I think that's something that we can always level at each other in the tough times and the good times when behaviours aren't so good. Are you making the Bear proud is something that we'll always draw back to. The third pillar is Leave Your Mark, and that's all about legacy. That's all about taking your chance to create memories for yourselves, for your teammates, and for members, for fans, for people to enjoy you play. Those 3 things are very important to us within the 4 walls of cricket, and there's constantly things that we draw back on, and particularly at times, early in the season where things weren't going so well. We have values, which I won't go into deeply. They're the guys' words, they're the words that have been formulated over the winter, and really all these words have been part of the last sort of 2 or 3 years since I took over the role of first team coach. Last year we resisted putting it into place because we had 17 guys out of contract. It was quite a chaotic year of knowing who's going to be here next year or not. So it's quite hard to instill some values when guys are not sure if they're going to be putting on the shirt the next year. We are moving into a bit more stable position, and these young guys coming into this environment are inducted in that way, so they know absolutely what it means. And these guys know it because they live it every day.
Thanks, Jim. Right, last sir, gentleman in the glasses has been very, very patient. Is the microphone there, Andy, please?
I'm not.
Actually, is this gentleman here in front of you? Yes, the gentleman with his hand up. He's been waiting for an eternity, Andy. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a question for Jim. A lot of members, Jim, have been baffled by the disappearance of Matty Lamb from the first 11. He had his baptism of fire in 2017, and he came through it very, very well. And as a consequence, you must have felt the same, because he continued to play for the first team at the start of the season. But unfortunately, he only had 4 innings, but had an average of over 50. one of your good self would explain to the members the reasons for this, please.
Okay, first thing I probably need to make clear is I'm not a vegan, because a lot of people on social media are saying that I don't like lamb. And I've said this earlier about, you know, it's not like football where you can give a guy half an hour at the end of a 90-minute game and make sure you rotate your squad and give them plenty of opportunities. Absolutely, I hear what you're saying. You know, Matty Lamb, the stats speak for themselves in terms of he played at the beginning of last year, he averaged 50. However, we had a balance issue where we were going into games with 3 seamers, Jeets, and relying on Rhodes and Lamb to share the 4th seamer role. Now that was having a huge knock-on effect onto side bottom and a young Henry Brooks. So we need to make that decision to use that batting position to move Ambi up to 6 and have Keith Barker at 7. So I had plenty of conversations with Lammy about this, said sometimes there are decisions that are made that I have to be, that's my job, I have to make that call. And something that I will always do when I am selecting teams is I will be very consistent. I will give guys the opportunity. Matty Lamb can feel very, you know, judged disappointingly in terms of not getting that crack and not getting a longer crack. However, that year, last year, proved that the guys that were given the position to play, they performed. We got promoted. We dominated pretty much every team in that league. And coming into the winter, a bit of change. He's missed out early season. He scored runs, which is absolutely brilliant. That's the great thing that we need to see, is that these guys are banging on the door. However, I will be consistent with my selection. And if I see a time where a guy's struggling and I've given him the opportunity and he hasn't performed over a long period of time, then Matty Lamb will be in that position to say, here I am, I'm ready to be selected. Now, there's always that thing with Lammy whether or not we could use him as an all-rounder, and I think his body isn't really up to the task of bowling 10 overs a day in championship cricket. So we very much have to view him as a batter rather than an all-rounder. But it shows by giving these guys consistency in selection, that an Adam Hose, a Liam Banks, these guys who are in possession have shown us the quality that they bring. But absolutely, it's not that I'm not ignoring Matty Lamb, I'm not turning my back on Matty Lamb. At the moment, he's not getting picked, and guys that I'm going with are now performing. He will have his time, but it's being ready at the right time is the key one for me.
Right, thanks, Jim. Paul, as promised, quick word for you about Warwickshire Women, which is part of your brief. How are you seeing it?
Yeah, good. We've got, I think we've got some very talented cricketers within our women's setup. They played a double header last weekend, beat Surrey, which was fantastic. Always good to beat Surrey. And I've mentioned this name at a few gatherings. Izzy Wong, who I think is our standout. She's extremely exciting and talented young cricketer. I went to watch them play at Nottingham a couple of weeks ago. Very dark, bad light would have stopped play, but for a white ball being played. She put her sunglasses on under her helmet, strailed out, needing 6 to win off the last ball. Didn't make contact, but I did like was the sort of the theatre, putting sunglasses on and striding out and, you know, swinging her arms ready to take the attack on. She bowls quickly. I've seen her bowl bouncers in women's cricket, which is a rare thing, that someone who's actually got that pace. But you know, she for me is going to be our standout. So she's someone to watch out for.
Thank you. Lady here, you've been, again, waiting patiently. Thank you, madam.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Andy, thank you. Just really about Ollie Hammond-Dolby, and I mentioned to Neil earlier that I'm absolutely thrilled he's bowling this year with the red ball. And I guess we're not used to seeing that. It tends to be the white ball. So what's happened to Ollie? It's great. It's just great.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that in terms of character, in terms of someone who epitomises the values that we're talking about, Ollie ticks all those boxes. He's a great lad, and what he's done is taken an opportunity with injuries to lead that attack. You know, show these young guys how you hold a length, how you prepare, how you consistently perform. I'd say in previous seasons, he's had to wait his turn in terms of the bowling stocks that we've had, and often he's been the 4th seamer, probably going into the wind using an older ball. Where he's taken that opportunity with the new ball, and you know, me and Jeets couldn't be happier to see him taking that and performing as well as he has. Yes, obviously he's had a period where he first came to the club and he was, you know, a white ball bowler for us. You know, 2020 finals day, often would come sort of to the back end of the innings and use his pace off and cutters. But he's shown also the versatility that he's more than capable with the red ball, and he's led that attack as a senior player.
I thought at Taunton he was a revelation. That 5 wickets in the first, it was just brilliant.
The lady was talking about how well he bowled at Taunton, those 5 wickets. Jeet?
Yeah, just running on that, and Jim just made a good point, is Ollie in the changing room cried after that. And like for a big lad like him, staring at him crying, I'm like, mate, we're going to go to bat now, so just hold your emotions for a bit. But it's, you know, it's been a long time for him since he did that last, and like, people's careers will run cycles, and he came onto the scene as a white ball specialist, and he hit the hole very well at the end, the Yorkers, and his change-ups then came into the game, and now we've asked him to up his red ball skills, and maybe his other skills are starting to lack him, but ultimately Ollie's the one you trust. You know, Ollie's the one, if you ask him for anything, your honesty, if you want someone to tell you the truth, you go to Ollie Hannon-Dolby, and you know, he's such a caring bloke. He is someone who will drop anything to help you out and do anything, and they're the sort of people that we want to believe within our team. He's certainly a leader, but you don't have to, you know, play the million games to be a leader, and especially not in our environment. I love throwing Ollie the ball. I know what I'm going to get. He'll try. When I take the ball off him, he gets upset. But I have to put him in his place sometimes. Say, mate, I'm going to need you at the other end, or I'm going to need someone else to do a job. And it's not always just Ollie. He will do anything and everything and run through a brick wall for us. And we're pretty lucky to have seamers like that, especially one at 6'8" that gets emotional.
Has he increased his pace? He seems to be on him quicker.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I mean, there might be a little bit, maybe a couple of mile an hour, but I think us giving him the right to go and bowl, and it's not us that have made him bowl fast, but he's just, you know, he's gone another arm and leg, and he's had some success doing it, and he knows what he's doing and how to do it, so he can run and bowl a little bit quicker. And I think when you don't have that, you tend to back off. I'm asking our guys to take that step forward, that half step forward all the time. If we back off and any of these games coming up, and you'll notice it sitting up here, you'll notice if we take the half step back, you'll also notice where the game goes. You know, I'd rather us take the step forward, that half step forward, like Ollie has done with his bowling, and then who cares? Let's go and throw it at him. Let's push back.
Ollie's podcasts with Richard Wilford are very good as well, don't they say so? Yes, sir.
Could I just take you back to one of the other early issues that we talked about, which was the spin bowling? And nice to hear your support for Alec Thompson. I just wondered, with the T20 coming up, whether you could ever see the situation where we'd actually play 3 spin bowlers in view of Aston Agar's situation.
Yeah, for me personally, I think I've been thinking about it a little bit lately. I shouldn't be, because I should be thinking about this, but yeah, I have been thinking about the T20, and I think with Ashton coming, myself, but I also think the way Tomo played the 50 over comp and the way he struck the ball, you know, there's a lot there to be said to we could definitely play 3.
Yeah.
It's how we manage 3 bowlers, because 12 overs of spin in a 20 over game can be quite difficult. However, it's been proven that spin bowlers are the most successful apparently.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see Tomo advance again. He's played a couple of games for us in 2020 already, and he's had success, but again, I want him to take my job. So if he wants my job, then he's going to have to learn from me.
Right, we're getting near the end of it. So last question from the gentleman here with his arm up, because Jeetan's has got to get. Yes, sir. You said.
Sorry, that's not really a question. Observation. Living down in the West Country, very near Taunton, I go there. I'm surrounded by Somerset people, and I thought, you know, why do you want Adam earlier in the season? Why do you want Adam Host? Somerset reject, I said. But today I was absolutely couldn't be more eating humble pie. I'm more delighted. So it's a tribute to you lot for, you know, persevering with people like that, I think.
So that's why you don't know where Portland Road is.
Over there one day.
I was thinking, so how can you possibly watch it and you don't know where Portland Road is?
Definitely.
Before we close, Neil Snowball wants to give us a State of the Nation address to the faithful.
Thanks very much. But I just wanted to pick up on the point that the gentleman made about the Warwickshire supporters. And I know I've got a receptive audience because you're all Bears fans, but I was really struck. You know, I know we enjoy the highs and we love celebrating '94, and I'll never ever forget that day down at Lord's when we smashed Surrey in the One Day Cup final. It was a real high. But credit to you for the way you stick through and support through the downtime. And for me, that's the genuine fans. We like the ups, but it's sticking with the team and the club through. And 2017 was a tough year. And again, we enjoyed the bounce back last year. And of course, there's always a few keyboard warriors out there bashing away in the middle of the night after a couple of pints. You know, we take that on the chin. But I just wanted to thank you for being, you know, consistent with your support and love for the Bears, because it does mean an awful lot to us. And also just a final thanks to these guys, obviously Paul, but also, you know, Jim and Jeet who insisted on coming up, even though it's been a long day down there at the field.
I can confirm that the keyboard warriors basically is always the fault of the media. It's always our fault when things go wrong. Never worry about that. More importantly, I think it's great. It reflects great credit on Warwickshire's executives here that they come up and talk to you. I can think of a lot of counties who are headed for the hills mid-May onwards for the rest of the season after a disappointing start. I've got a feeling, come the end of September, you may well look on that first month as the worst month of the season. Just feel that the green shoots of recovery and excellence are on the way. Let's hope so. I'm sure everybody in this room wishes that you're going to have an outstanding season. Something tells me you are going to, and I would suggest, with all modesty, that the future of Warwickshire on and off the field is in good hands, judging by the way these four gentlemen have spoken this evening. Thank you all very much for coming along. Good questions. Sorry we didn't get them all dealt with. A little bit haphazard at time, but particularly, Jeet, wish you well tomorrow on the field. Jim, Paul, and Neil, thanks very much indeed, gentlemen. Thank you.